Keegan Murray's he'll be a hell of an NBA player. But to say the Rockets messed up by taking Jabari Smith, like I've been seeing that floating around King's Twitter. That's ridiculous. But go on, Sean. I just had to address that. Don't get too ahead of ourselves. I know we tried to warn everybody, not just Pistons fans, everybody about the Summer League. Come on.
What is going on? I want to welcome you from Half Court for today, Wednesday, July 13th. I'm your host, Sean Murphy, alongside my guy, Jeff. Hi, Frady. Jeff, it's good to see you as always, my friend.
It's good to see you, Sean and Troy. I'm excited, man. It's been like a couple weeks since we had the gang back together.
Absolutely, man. And you said it best because, ladies and gentlemen, we are rejoined by Troy Sergey. Troy, you know it's always good to see you, my friend.
Never gets old, by the way.
It's so good to have you back. Anytime you're gone, it doesn't feel right. So, brother, it's so good to see you again.
Yeah, appreciate it. Had a great 4th of July up with friends and family up in Marquette, Michigan, up in the Upper Peninsula. But it just feels crazy now. We're still watching basketball now. You know, the finals were a few weeks ago, but now we got some Summer League. We had the draft first, then the Summer League. And always in the Summer League, it just excites me for, I guess, the middle or the end of October for the season to start. And especially looking at the top 5 draft picks, I've been watching a lot of Paolo, a lot of Chet, a lot of Jabari, and a lot of Keegan, and a lot of Ivey. So it's been a fun couple days, guys.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. And with that, let's get right into it because this is from Half Court. Each and every week we get to talk all things NBA basketball. This week we get to talk Summer League basketball. And if you like that, be sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and also share with your friends and join in the conversation down below. Also, we have a brand new clips channel for From Half Court called From Half Court Clips. So be sure that you subscribe to that or else, mother. But anyways, guys, NBA Summer League. Troy, you brought it up. I didn't realize, man, and like you kind of forget how much you love Summer League until it comes around again, you know? And I've gotten the itch more than ever in the determination that we're going to be there next year. So we're going to figure out how to make that happen. But in the interim, that hasn't stopped us from watching basketball a ton collectively as a group. And with that, the NBA Summer League always has some players that shine and maybe some players that falter. And with that, let's start the show talking about our biggest surprises or our best of the Summer League. And then let's have the flip conversation too. Now let's start with the number 1 overall pick, Paolo Banchero. Mm-hmm. Paulo's a bucket. Mm-hmm. An absolute bucket. And after watching Summer League, it makes a whole lot of sense why Paolo Banchero went number 1. I mean, the more I think about it, the more I see it in action, the more it makes sense to me. So
yeah, and you could call this a pro Paolo podcast in a way, because we've been talking about him really since the Duke days, when looking forward to the draft back in February, March area. So, you know, to be honest though, guys, nothing about Paolo in the Summer League has taught me anything I already didn't know, right? I knew he was a bucket. I knew that he was top caliber in this year's draft. A little bit surprised he did go number 1, as we all kind of were. But at the same time, as far as his playmaking ability and his ability to get to the basket and just his athleticism too, I guess I kind of already knew a lot of that, and I assume you guys did too.
Yeah, without a doubt. I think the one thing from Paolo's game that I really enjoyed seeing was his defensive intensity. And like, you kind of always knew that Paolo had the intangibles to be really good on that end, but to see him take it seriously and to take it to heart in Summer League, you know, it just excites you to see him hopefully do that on the NBA stage as well. I think I saw, you know, it was never the question of like if he could be a skilled defender, but to see it in action, that helps a ton. But Jeff, what were your thoughts of Paolo specifically, and what did you see from him that made you go, oh yeah, that's number 1 pick?
Troy kind of hit on it. Watching Paolo, he confirmed everything I thought him to be. I mean, we were a little shocked he went number one, but he was also the guy, we talked about this before, and I mentioned this. He's the guy I'm banking on to be the first All-Star, or will be an All-Star. If you can put money on it, it's Paolo Banchero, just because what Troy said, his ability to play make at 6'10", and he's got the finishing ability. He's stepping out. He's a little more consistent hitting a shot from downtown, which that was something I questioned too coming in. But yeah, if you take into account his skill set offensively, what he can do defensively if he's locked in, which you've seen it at times, he's got the complete package. And now you understand, like, if you're Orlando, that's why you take him, just because he can go get you a bucket. Like, Jabari's great, but we're starting, and we'll hit on it in a little bit, but there's reasons why also destination matters, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, with Paolo, confirms everything I wanted, man. He's a bucket. He really is. Yeah,
without a doubt. And I think, you know, like, obviously there's aspects of his game where he's going to have to grow. Like, his shot isn't the greatest thing on the planet right now. Like, the form itself is good. It just doesn't go down all the time. So he's just a young player. And then, like, the other thing too, his handles got to get a little better. He can kind of, with Paolo, since he's 6'10" and has such like a physical, strong frame, he's kind of able to protect the ball, like, with his body a little bit more, not necessarily expose it to get stripped, but at the same time, in the NBA level, like, especially for his skill set, they'll just have to get a little bit tighter with that. But overall, blown away. But another guy at the top of the draft that has been impressing even before the Vegas Summer League, starting in Salt Lake City, was Chet Holmgren. And I just want to take my little moment to say, just to say, mother, I told y'all. But anyway, I told y'all. But seriously though, like, it was amazing. Like, even people at our own network, like not to name names, there were people that were telling me my take was whack, that then went and put money on Chet being rookie of the year. So that's where we're at. But with that, Chet had 12 blocks through 3 games of Summer League. His jump shot looked smooth. His ball handling's great. The only thing is, yet again, just been when he's been faced with that physicality. That's kind of been the tough thing. But I want to know what you guys thought of Chet specifically, and what have you seen from him?
Yeah, I mean, guys, he's a guy that has Durant-like skill set. He really does. He's a facilitator. He can get to the hole. He can score really at any angle. I think that's the biggest thing that I think of is his scoring, because he's a scorer. He's not a shooter. He's a scorer. I mean, he can shoot the ball for sure, but like, he is the definition of a bucket. And I see with his long, versatile, I swear, if you squinted your eyes, you saw a little bit of Durant. Not saying he's going to have the career that Kevin Durant did, but he's kind of a protege of Durant, I would say. So I feel like Chet's going to have definitely a long career here in the NBA. And man, I think OKC just got tremendously better with him. And to think of his teammates, you know, like you mentioned earlier, Jeff, the pairing and what teams you go to does matter. I mean, Giddey and him and Shea, ooh, guys, OKC is on a rebuild and a good one.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. And in that pairing, that tandem of Giddey and Chet in the pick and roll is going to be something that for years is really gonna terrorize teams.
Yeah.
I don't know if maybe the Kevin Durant skill set is maybe the thing that impressed me the most was just his sheer rim protecting ability. And even at this level, like, guys that are just like trying to come at him, like 12 blocks in 3 games is no joke. You know what I mean? Like that's just unprecedented, even in Summer League. Jeff, what were kind of your takeaways, and what do you think about his game caught a lot of people off guard? Do you think people just didn't realize how skilled he was?
Yeah. No, it was. And I think with Chet, it's the shot blocking that stands out to me the most. I mean, game 1, he had 6 blocks. He broke the Summer League record for the amount of blocks in a game. That's what stood out to me. And to Troy's point too, that's why he was called a unicorn. Like, his ability to get to his spots offensively. He's got the Dirk mid-range fadeaway with the knee up. Like, he's got it all. He's got the entire package and what he can do defensively. It's not even like he has to go out and score though. Like, that's what's weird about Chet. His effect on winning that's important. Like whether he has 10 points, 25 points, he's still going to get you a double-double with multiple blocks. And people are going to have to respect his ability to shoot. Like that's going to affect your entire offense and benefit the Thunder. And again, to speak on the point about going, where you go matters, to pair with SGA and Josh Giddey, like whether it's Josh Giddey or, Shea Gilgeous running a pick and roll, teams are going to have problems defending that. Like I get with Giddey, he's got to get better, shooting outside, but even with SGA, a guy who can get you 20 points per game, like Chet is going to benefit from being in OKC. And I think his skill set fits those guys perfectly. So with Chet, man, like he's going to be a stud. The only question I have, and I'll continue to have until I get proven otherwise, is his ability to last through 82 games. I think he can, but I just have to see his rookie year play. I have to see what he looks like on an NBA floor, guarding, NBA players. Other than that, the things you hit on, Sean, all of those things will translate. The shot blocking, like his shooting ability, which Troy hit it on, like that stuff will translate. So he hit on everything for me. I'm excited for Chet, man, in OKC. Thunder fans should be excited. Yeah, for real.
I think people, what people generally think when guys come out of college is that when a guy's body's underdeveloped, that his game isn't developed either. But the thing with Chet is if he had even 10 more pounds on his body, there wouldn't have even been a debate if he was the number 1 pick or not. Like I truly believe that. Like
but 5 pounds or 10 pounds is so easy to gain. Like it's way.
I mean, you would think generally maybe for Chet it's not. That's going to be the interesting thing, is going to be seeing how he's going to grow into his body. But I think, I think the other thing too with that is that he doesn't have the pressure. Like with Paolo, I think he was the guy that was ready day one to shoulder the pressure of being a number 1
Absolutely.
pick, right? Like I think that's what you've seen throughout Summer League. Whereas with Chet, the beautiful thing about OKC is even though like I think he could, and I think he has the leadership ability, I don't think it would overwhelm him. I think it's going to do him I think it's going to do him wonders that he won't have to, and so with like having skilled guards like Giddey and Gilgeous-Alexander there to make your job easier, but then guys like Trey Mann, guys like, it just that entire roster, man. Yeah. I mean, shout out to Cone, Oklahoma City Thunder, definitely looking scary. So good stuff coming up for them. Keegan Murray, another guy that caught people off guard because they realized, oh, wait, this guy can play too. And the conversation with Keegan Murray was never whether or not he could play basketball. It was whether or not he should be the number 5 overall pick over Jaden Ivey. And I mean, we'll get into Jaden Ivey in a second, but guys, Keegan Murray's going to be a really good NBA player for a long time.
Again, I'm not surprised. I really saw this coming, guys. I thought he was always going to be the most ready guy in the league to impact a team, and it's going to be really interesting. Again, we've kind of said some not so good things about the Sacramento Kings franchise, so it's going to be really interesting to see how he's going to fit in there. But I really think that he's going to be a guy who has definitely 12 plus years in this league. There's just no doubt about it. He can get buckets from day one, and I feel like even he's a guy that you got to even talk about that could potentially be in the candidacy for Rookie of the Year. So,
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like day one, that guy's going to be able to score from anywhere. I mean, his jump shot's pure, defensively pure, mentally even keen. I mean, that buzzer beater he hit was the highlight of Summer League, and he wasn't phased at all. Jeff, people got to apologize to Keegan Murray because they went in right off the bat thinking this guy would be a bust.
Yeah, it was, and this is what I got to get straight to, like with people and Pistons fans that you hit on it too. It was between Jaden Ivey or Keegan Murray. It was never if Keegan Murray was a good NBA player, or will he, if he will become a good NBA player. You saw in Summer League, he's ready to play. His skills will all translate. His ability to shoot, my God, like he had one bad game through his entire Summer League career. Now he's had 20 plus points in pretty much every single game. He's got the skill set, and I think again, like this is what we all advocated for. Thank you, or you're welcome, Pistons fans, to be honest with you, or not Pistons fans, Kings fans, because we were like, this is the best fit for Keegan Murray to go to the Kings, to be able to play with Sabonis, play with De'Aaron Fox. His skill set, I mean, he's playing well with these Summer League players around him. Imagine when he gets De'Aaron Fox and Domantas Sabonis around him. Like he's just going to benefit so much. So I love Keegan Murray, man. I didn't like him for the Pistons over Jaden Ivey. We'll see. We have to see these players' careers play out. But again, like if your question was ever if he's NBA ready, like come on, like you saw it in the summer league, man. He's ready to go. A 6'8" forward, 6'9" forward who could shoot threes and is what he can do in transition too. He's just a solid. He's a good NBA player. He'll have a terrific career, like you said, for 15 years. He'll be great.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. To me, the big thing that like as far as like when watching his game, it's one of those things where it is just that consistency and that reliability. And like if we had Keegan Murray on the Detroit Pistons summer league team, we'd be making the argument that he's the best player in this draft, just off how he was playing and the consistency he was bringing and everything he was doing right now. So, I mean, it's one of those things where you have to be able to find a way to have an honest conversation about basketball and remove your fandom from it. So, that's something we really try and stress here on this podcast. And with that terrible transition,
real quick before we I have to address one thing because I saw this on Twitter. Keegan Murray's he'll be a hell of an NBA player, but to say the Rockets messed up by taking Jabari Smith, like I've been seeing that floating around King's Twitter, that's ridiculous. But go on, Sean. I just had to address that. Don't get too ahead of ourselves. I know we tried to warn everybody, not just Pistons fans, everybody about the Summer League. Come on.
Yep. And we'll get to some of those, like, those disappointments and maybe some of those other takeaways in a second. Cause I'm not going to spoiler alert, Jabari's on the disappointment list, but even then he's had a pretty darn good summer league. Mm-hmm. So that's the thing. But with that, guys, I saved it for as long as I could. We have to talk about Jaden Ivey. Lord have mercy. That's first of all, those 5 minutes against the Washington Wizards were the best 5 minutes that anybody had this summer league, and you cannot tell me otherwise. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I even was watching people talking after summer league, and a podcaster I really enjoy, someone I really respect. He's over at The Volume. He said if you were to do a redraft, he would go Paolo 1, and he would have taken Jaden Ivey at 2.
Wow.
So, we talked about how there was a legitimate case for Jaden Ivey to be the best player in this draft.
Yeah.
I feel even more convicted that that's the case after watching him play. Do you guys agree?
Yeah, definitely. And he has just tremendous athleticism, like freak athleticism. I don't want to say what we've all been hearing on Twitter, John Morant athleticism, right? But he kind of does, and he has the ability to score like no other. And I mean, he's by far, obviously, the best point guard in this draft. And I think that redraft, I might actually have Chet number 1 and Ivy 2 on my redraft board. But I mean, it's so early to even talk about a redraft board. But I mean, he's going to be a guy that next to Cade this fall and this winter is going to be awesome, guys. It's just going to be everything that we've been waiting for. The Rodney Stuckey, the Brandon Knight era. It's all led to this, guys, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you bring up that John Morant type athleticism, and one thing we talked about in a video that came out as of this recording on Monday, or as of when this comes out on Monday, Jeff and I kind of talked about how, like I said after this, I kind of feel more okay with saying that he's kind of like John Morant, because when I'm watching his game, there's just too many similarities in the play style and how they approach the game of basketball. But Jeff, this guy, unreal. I saw one thing, another thing people are saying, or another thing I've seen, is that I've been seeing some Dwayne Wade comps. I've been seeing John Morant comps, and whatever his ceiling's going to be, we have no clue. What we can say right now is I think the Pistons got a pretty good player.
Yeah. No doubt about it. And I'll give you one more. Derrick Rose, like the way he moves, he has a quick first step, guys. Yeah. And you see that John Morant's one. I think Derrick Rose is one you got to mention in there. Like his ability to blow by your first defender and create shots for everybody. This is what we wanted in Detroit. Another guy. What did we say, Sean? I feel like I'm echoing in Troy as well. We talked about this on the pod. we need a guy who can make plays for others and create offense. And Cade complimented him as well. He loves, and we talked about his athleticism. He is so much more faster than everybody in summer league. Like, that's going to bode well for the Pistons come the regular season. Kay talked about it. I want him to push the pace. We need a guy like Jaden Ivey to just up the tempo, like get these guys playing downhill. And now you have a guy who, it's kind of like that fire and ice. I'll keep bringing that up. Like, you have Cade, who plays at his pace, can get to his spots. And then you have Jaden Ivey, who's so much more faster than he gets to the basket. And you have to, it's funny that, Dwayne brought this up, and I would much rather tell a guy to pull back. Like, he goes 110% all the time. Not Russell Westbrook reckless. I'm not talking about that. Just his ability to just get downhill, attack the basket. He showed things. His shot looks a lot better. I mean, he had some inconsistent shots where they were way off, but then he had some makes that looked pretty good. He had a deep one that didn't count. So there's plenty of room to grow there with Jaden Ivey. It's the athleticism. If I had to use one word, it would just be electric. Like, he really is. He's going to put butts in the seats, man. He really is. And I think long term, to say he's going to be the best player in this draft, I get it's summer league, but if you're just making projections, you're not crazy. I think my favorites would probably be him and Paolo, and then Chet right there in that mix to be the best player. But if you tell me in 5-10 years if Jaden Ivey's the best player, like, I'm not a Pistons fan, I'd be like, yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. Now, I do want to transition, and let's real quick talk downers, right? And we brought up his name a minute ago, Jabari Smith Jr. And it's interesting that you bring it up, Jeff, that, we talking about like all these guys that would like make a legitimate case. I don't know if you meant to or not, but Jabari Smith was not mentioned when you brought up that list of players. And one thing that I felt pretty concerned about going into the draft was Jabari's lack of ability to create for himself, right?
Yep.
And I didn't think it was going to be this noticeable in Summer League day one. But guys, Jabari can't dribble the basketball right now. Like, I don't want to be mean, but he can't. He doesn't have a handle right now.
And I'm not going to pull back on what I said. Like, I wanted him for the Pistons, so I'm not going to tiptoe around it. I love Jabari Smith, but guys, the fit matters. Like, in Detroit, they're going to want Jabari to shoot the ball, be aggressive, and give him that confidence. In Houston, like, even in summer league is like a foreshadow of what the regular season looks like, because he's not even getting opportunities in summer league. Like, now he had a good game tonight against San Antonio, but come the regular season, you're playing alongside Kevin Porter Jr. and Jalen Green, two guys that are really shoot first point guards. I know Kevin Porter is a good passer, but to get Jabari to where we ultimately think he can be, defensively, no questions. I know he's going to play hard every single night. That's not the question. It's offensively. And to your point, Sean, he could be in the future a better shot creator, but right now in Houston, that's a tough fit. And I think, again, it matters where you go. As a prospect, I love Jabari, but in Houston, it worries me. Yeah,
without a doubt. Troy, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, and I think that comparison of the easy comparison to say, what if he was a Piston, right? I mean, we wouldn't have these issues because we know who'd be handling the floor. We know his role would be. And I think that it's definitely different with his role in Houston. And I think about like guys like Giannis, right? Imagine Jabari Smith against a guy like Giannis or the Joker or even Embiid. Like, those guys defending him are gonna eat him up, like it's just the way it is with, putting the ball on the floor, especially if you want to do a post hook or whatever you want to do in the paint. And that part of basketball matters. And I think we've seen far too many Andre Drummond clips over the years of, he's a guy that had a hard time putting the ball on the floor too. I just think it's going to be a little bit tough, but again, you cannot count out a guy even close in the summer league. And we're not counting out Jabari Smith because I still think he's going to be a great NBA player. But what you said, Sean, I think it's worth mentioning for sure.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. And again, it's not that Jabari Smith Jr. is not going to be a good NBA player.
Yeah, he will be.
That there's not parts of his game that you look at and go, oh my, because I mean, defensively, there's just every possession I've seen of Jabari on the defensive end, I'm just like, oh Lord, this brother is good. And so with that, like it's going to come down to, and his ceiling's always been, well, how will he be able to create his offense at some point? Like, will he get to that point? And so, I think with Summer League, obviously, I think especially after game 1, there were just way too many people flipping the switch and down on Jabari. And even though he wasn't my guy coming into the draft process, even I'm like, all right, guys, let's calm this down, because again, we talk about how many guys come into Summer League and we never hear their names again. And they're putting on these incredible performances. And then there's top draft picks who are having poor shooting performances. And that doesn't mean that's going to be what's going to be the case in the regular season. Now, it might help him more to have guys like Jalen Green. It might, because at least those guys can create for him a little bit more than whoever's playing with him right now. But even then, man, like, when I'm watching Jabari, just the more and more I see it, I'm just like, the more and more I just see for his rookie season, like 12 points, 4 or 5 boards, solid defense, and like 12 points feels like a stretch as far as an average right now.
Yeah, and that's the problem I have too. It's like, can he get there? I think so. Being in Houston, will they let him get there? Like you saw in game 1, I get Summer League, I'm just citing what I've seen. The amount of open shots he had, and he didn't get the basketball. Like, and I get it, Summer League, maybe he'll get those in the regular season. But again, like, you're basing your prediction off Jalen Green and Kevin Porter Jr., 2 guys that aren't natural playmakers. Like, that's the problem I have with the Pistons. You would have 2 or 3 natural playmakers on the Pistons immediately. So it's just different fits. Like, that's why Chet, like, would you love Chet in Houston or OKC? Like, with Chet's skill set, maybe it doesn't matter, but I think more beneficial for him if you can get 2 guys that can run a pick and roll and know how to use him. Like, that's the point we're hitting on. I still love Jabari. I think he'll be a good player, but that's the difference between a 20-point scorer and like a 15-point scorer. Like, it's the shot creation. Can he get there? And then it's also, can his teammates allow him to get there? Like, can they be like, all right, Jabari, you're a big part of this game plan. Let's get you going. Instead of Jalen Green coming out and taking the first 5 shots. Like, who knows? But I hope he can get there, because I love Jabari as a player, man. I really do.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. And ultimately, like, again, like they're like, even his first night wasn't indicative of the rest of his Summer League, because he's looked better and better as he's gone on. And even when this episode comes out, like, people might be like, what are you talking about? He played awesome Monday night and he's been flying throughout the week. So this could be a total moot point by then, but that just shows kind of the Summer League. But guys, one more name we got to throw on this list. Killian Hayes. I mean, like, from a Pistons side, just as far as maybe we set the expectations too high. Maybe it's just carrying over from what we want to see from Killian as a whole in general. Because I feel like this isn't like one specific thing. This just feels like pent up aggression over time from fans about Killian. So with that, what did you make, Troy? Because you haven't been able to talk about this yet. What did you make of Killian's Summer League performance? And does it change your mindset for Killian going into the season at all?
Yeah. Two kind of tough questions for me to truly, have a bold prediction on. But I think the first one is, I am a little bit disappointed. I wanted a little bit more out of him. I especially going into the 3rd year. Now, I understand how many NBA games has he played? Like 90. So he hasn't even barely played a full season, even though it's his 2nd year done, going into his 3rd year. And I just feel like at this point, we should see a little more production out of him. And it's going to be definitely hard with, 2 point guards who you have definitely going to have the ball in the hands with Ivey and Cunningham next year. So that's definitely something to be, I guess, a little bit concerned. But does it change my perspective of going into next year? No, it just doesn't. I guess I kind of always thought Killian would be kind of more of your ball handler, facilitator, more than your scorer, right? Or even remotely your primary scorer. And he's a great defender. So he's a guy that, I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt at the end of the day, and still make this 3rd year a put up or shut up year for him.
Yeah, without a doubt. And Jeff, before I toss it to you, I even saw people asking on our video today. Like, I even saw a comment that said, what's the big deal about Killian scoring if he can do all these other things? And to answer that question, I think we really need to put in perspective, like where his offensive numbers just like are truly at in the grand scheme of things. Because he's like, not only is Killian Hayes a low volume scorer, but he's a low efficiency scorer too.
Bingo.
And listen, man, if your attempts are low and your percentages are bad, your days are numbered in the league. They just are. So like anyone that's like telling us like, oh, well, that's not that big of a deal. Like Killian has all these great other aspects. What about this? Listen, I agree with you. But listen, man, at a certain point, the excuses run out and the reality is just there.
No, so two things can be true, Sean. Like you kind of already hit on it, man. Like you could say he can do everything very well, but the efficiency numbers, that's what I'm looking at. And he looked good. His first game in the summer league, he made the right play every single time. But I think, and you mentioned this to begin your point, like maybe it is because we had too high of expectations. Maybe Pistons fans in general expected Killian to be this, 15-point scorer off the bench. Like you have to accept Killian for who he is. He's unselfish, maybe a little too unselfish at times, but that's his game. He's a natural playmaker. What he's going to bring defensively for the Pistons is what we need to focus on. His value defensively, having another point guard who can create opportunities. You can have the versatility also, like with Jaden Ivey, Killian, and Cade on the floor together. There's so many things you can look forward to. But again, like if you're going to be playing 25 to 30 minutes some nights, you got to be able to score. Like, I'm sorry, I get that's not his role, but you'd like him to be more aggressive. And I didn't really get to see a lot of that game, only one summer league game. That's why I was hoping he played the entire summer league, but we'll see. I'm not going to write him off. I'm excited for him, to be honest, in his third year. I think, he's going to have a bigger role. He's going to have a big role off the bench because number one, when Cade or Jaden Ivey's off the floor, Killian's that dude. He's going to be in the game, creating plays for others. But to your point, Sean, maybe it is because of just too high of expectations. Like, what do you expect out of Killian ultimately? Like, I'm cool with him being a 10-5-4 guy. He can get you, 1.5 steals off the bench, what he can bring defensively. I'm cool with that. But if you expect Killian to be, a 15-point scorer, you're Jordan Poole off the bench, you might have gave your hopes might be a little too high, like, to be honest with you.
Yeah, without a doubt, man. And maybe it was, but again, like, it's like kind of like now, it just, I think, again, the way I described it to you before is that to me, it just felt like a missed opportunity for Killian. And that's going to be the thing, is that he's not going to maybe have another opportunity like this all season where it's going to be just him on the court, as far as like, without Cade, without Sadiq. I mean, even at parts without Ivy, I mean, that's not going to be the case this season. So, like, I do see a future for Killian on this team, but he's going to have to show aspects of his game that we just haven't seen yet. And again, it's not that he needs to be this elite NBA scorer. He needs to be NBA level. 26% shooting from three with 2.5 attempts per game is not NBA level. 40% from the field with four or five attempts a game is not NBA level. It's just not. So with Killian, it's just going to have to keep plugging away, keep doing more. But I mean, overall, again, it's just one. But with that, gentlemen, a whole lot of NBA Summer League talk there, a whole lot of good stuff. But the news around the league doesn't stop. Reports are suggesting more and more looking like Deandre Ayton could potentially end up an Indiana Pacer. In fact, it's sounding like they might be throwing him an offer sheet here soon. So with that has a lot of implications in what happens with Kevin Durant, all this kind of stuff. But let's just, in a vacuum, let's just talk about what this fit looks like for the Indiana Pacers. Because Halliburton, Mathurin, Ayton, it's a pretty tantalizing core to build around. Mm-hmm. What are you guys' thoughts? Troy, I'll go with Troy, you're in Indiana. I want to go with you first, my guy.
Get the insider.
Yeah, I'm the new Pacers insider for podcast. No, I think that's definitely would be a good pairing, and I think they're kind of not really in a hurry right now, which I think would be good. for their rebuild, I guess you could say, because, I think trading your quote unquote franchise player with Sabonis last year, you're kind of starting new, even if you got the better half of the deal with Tyrese Halliburton. So I think with the Pacers, I think they kind of have nothing to lose, in my opinion, by throwing Ayton in the bag, because I think he's the guy that we know what we're getting out of him. He's not a mystery player in any means, shape, or form, right? We know what DeAndre Ayton's gonna do, and then even in the East, which of course we know the East is kind of the new West in a lot of ways, but I think you could make a play-in push if you're the Indiana Pacers with a guy like Ayton, and I don't know. I in my opinion, I'm kind of all for it. I really am all for it.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes too much sense for them, right? I mean, like a guy who's young fits their timeline better. I mean, with specifically Miles Turner, a guy who's really good, but maybe someone that could go help someone else now. Like someone perhaps in a sign and trade makes a lot of sense with Phoenix as well. Jeff, what are your thoughts? I mean, here's one thing that's interesting. I mean, the Kevin Durant thing completely screwed up the entire landscape of the league because DeAndre Ayton was supposed to be the biggest name available this summer. And now guys like Ayton and Sexton kind of have to wait to find a home until this Kevin Durant thing gets sorted out.
What do we say? This draft class is overrated. We've been preaching that since for the last probably 2 months.
You mean the free agency class?
Yes. Oh, sorry.
The draft is great.
Is good, Jeff.
No, the draft class is good. The free agency class is overrated, and we've been saying that. I don't want Miles Bridges, DeAndre, and we are ready to settle for. But again, I love what the Pacers are doing. Look at where their roster was a year ago, and look at what they've been able to do. Now you have Tyrese Halliburton you can build around. You have DeAndre, and the biggest domino in this deal would be Miles Turner. And I love Miles Turner. I really do. And if the Phoenix Suns get Miles Turner, or some other team lands Miles Turner, that's a win for them. I mean, honestly, for me, though, the Pacers are getting a better player. I think DeAndre, we know what he brings, to Troy's point. I think there's room to grow. I think he can be a 20-10 guy. I think you're playing with, in Phoenix with 2 ball-dominant guards. Now you get to go with Tyrese Halliburton, who's more of Chris Paul made him even better, but I think he's going to have a much more significant role with the Pacers, man. He's going to contribute to winning. He brings playoff experience. He's been to the finals. I get there's maturity issues, but when you walk into a role like he will have with the Pacers, I think he'll be able to handle it just fine. So I like this move for the Pacers. I see what they're building, and they got a young core, man. So I'm down for it. But the piece I'm looking forward to see where he goes is Miles Turner, because whatever team that lands him, they're getting a stud, man.
Yeah, without a doubt. And in addition, I think for the first time in a while, Indiana has something that they can really start to piece around and potentially over the course of the next few years get pretty darn competitive. So, listen,
East
man,
is tough. East is tough.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's one of those things where it's like, man, like I'm thinking about because those Pacers Pistons rivalries really used to be something great. Mm-hmm. If we can get a renewed Pistons Pacers rivalry with Ayton versus Durant, Cade versus Halliburton, Mathurin versus Ivy, I'm telling you what, brother, that is a fun matchup in the Central Division for years to come.
I'm here for it.
And what makes rivalries too? Storylines. DeAndre and potentially going to the Pistons. We didn't end up signing him. Then you have Tyrese Halliburton, who we almost took. We took Killian Hayes instead of Tyrese Halliburton. I love the little storylines there. So there's going to be a little bit of beef, I think, not between the players, but DeAndre coming to Detroit, he's gonna be like, all right, let's get it. Same with Tyrese. Yeah. So I like it, man. It's a good little young core versus young core.
And Ivy's from Indiana school with Purdue, and he even said on draft night he wouldn't mind being drafted by the Pacers. So there's grew up
in Indiana too, originally from the area. So man, whole ton of storylines there. So definitely gonna be a fun potential thing going on there for sure. But in addition, guys, there's been a whole ton of moves, whole lot of things been happening since we last saw each other. Troy, since we last saw you, the Hawks and the Timberwolves both mortgaged their franchises to trade for all-stars. One got a really good young guard and a dynamic player that can really help this team win and do great things. And the other got Rudy Gobert. And
that's why I'm cringing. That's why I'm cringing, yes.
I just have to know, what were your thoughts of the Rudy Gobert move? Because
I thought of two guys that's going to be a blast from the past for us. And I thought of Andre Drummond, Greg Monroe, and I guess you could add a third guy, Josh Smith, to that. That's where my head went when I saw that. But, guys, it's going to be a cluster in the paint. Like, come on. Like, the T-Wolves had such a good season this year. They were a storyline team. For them to be able to make the playoffs for the first time in how many years? And they go out and they get Rudy Gobert. Now, it's just not a winning move. That's where I'm at with it.
It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be a winning move.
Not, guys. It's not. And you it's just not. I'm sorry.
Troy, what does this mean for Kevin Durant, man? Like you get Rudy Gobert for essentially 4 first-round picks, including more assets, and now Kevin Durant's on the trade block. Like what? That man's 10 first-round picks? Like the trade didn't make sense. I get it from this perspective. I get if Cat, he wants to slide to the 4. He loves spacing out. He loves shooting threes. He's the best big man shooter in the NBA. But to your point, like there comes a time your team got slower. Like they did. And you got Anthony Edwards, who's like amazing in transition. He's electric. And then now you got to play at a much slower pace now because you got Rudy Gobert, who really can't finish games. And you got him for 4, really 5 first-round picks. Like it's, my God, man. We'll see what happens, but I don't like the move either. I like it for Utah, but I don't like it for Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, I love it for Utah. Great for Utah. I mean, Danny Ainge wins another trade yet again, but I mean,
we were just talking about a few months ago of how the future isn't so bright for Utah, but now to get the picks, hey.
Well, yeah, I mean that changes everything. I mean, if you're building around a core Rudy Gobert, I'm like, I don't know how I love your future. But if you're able to flip them for half the upcoming drafts picks, I mean, shoot, I mean, they practically got the second round out of that. I mean, holy cow. But no, but in all seriousness, I think, you know, in the immediacy, I think we'll see a team. I think we'll see them rise in the regular season standings. I think this will be one of those situations where in the short term, at the beginning of the year, this is a team that could potentially be like a surprise first seed in the West for the first couple of weeks or something like that. And then as the season goes down, we see a little bit more snap to reality. I think the big thing for them, I mean, obviously this allows Cat to play more on the perimeter, do more what he wants offensively, play power forward. But like Rudy Gobert, other side of 30, we've seen he's not really a great offensive player. And for this to all work, you need Anthony Edwards to be a superstar now. And he's not even 21 yet. So I just don't know if I love putting your number 1 overall, putting your youngest number 1 overall pick. I had to specify because Minnesota has so many of them on their roster. But specifically, man, it's just like, it's just, I don't love the risk reward factor here.
And this is the flip side. Pistons fans have this conversation a lot. Like, do you, and maybe Anthony Edwards loves the Timberwolves for trying, you want to build around him. But again, like this is what we don't want to happen with the Pistons, like jumping ahead of schedule to try. And I get it. You want to prove to Cade you're building a winner, but I would much rather take this because you may not win, but Cade sees the vision. Like with Anthony Edwards, like if you don't win, you have Rudy Gobert making $30 million. Good luck retrading him. Like that's a disaster, man, if it doesn't work out. So Minnesota's they're on the hot seat. I mean, they really are. This has to work out. It really does, or else everybody's going to be pissed off.
Well, because if they lose games, what's their option? Like they can't rebuild.
Yeah,
like Utah has all their picks.
Yeah, true. Yeah, true. You got to keep going.
Yeah, exactly, man. Exactly. And even then, even looking at this roster and looking like at now that they added Rudy Gobert, they still feel like a piece or two away from being a serious contender, even if you were to look at them that way. So like
big time.
And the biggest piece of it all is like, you talk about selling your soul to get superstars, right? Or to get big names. What was one name in that trade that we had brought up that was so crucial for the Minnesota Timberwolves all year? Patrick Beverley.
I don't get it.
And then the second you ship his ass to Utah. Man, I mean, like you gotta think you want to keep somebody to help this roster. I mean, like you need some people to come off your bench.
dude, my man was on Twitter shouting out free agents coming to the Timberwolves. Like, welcome to the welcome, man, welcome to the club. And then the next minute he's traded. Like that, and that shows a lot about the NBA, number one. But number two, like the Timberwolves just don't get it. Like they really don't. Like you have a player who Patrick Beverley standing on the scores table like Dwayne Wade when he brought a championship to Miami. Like for him to show that emotion and you trade him for Rudy Gobert, who had issues already in-house with Donovan Mitchell, and now you're going to pair him with Anthony Edwards and everything's just supposed to go away. Maybe, hey, new destination, maybe Rudy Gobert looks good. But I will say what he is right now, that's what he is. Like you're not going to see Rudy Gobert all of a sudden develop even more. So, hey, I get it, but I also don't get it. So it's a weird.
Generally speaking, I don't see a whole lot of guys that develop their game at 30. That's me. So
yeah, you're right about that, John.
Yeah, that's just me. And so now with Rudy Gobert, let's I mean, next year you're gonna owe him 38 mil. Next year you're gonna owe him 41 mil. The year after that you're gonna owe him 43 million. And the year after that, you're going to owe him 46 in the year 2025, 2026. So, and that's going to be when Rudy's in his mid 30s. So, how that team's going to be looking around then, I have no idea. But here's one thing I do know. Very small chance Rudy gets traded from Minnesota now.
Oh, very small. And I want to ask Troy before we move on, because we had this conversation with Anthony as well. If you're Utah, do you trade Donovan Mitchell?
I would wait to the deadline.
Yeah, that's fair.
So you have okay. That kind of like didn't. That was not the answer I was hoping you'd say. But because I'll give you the context. I felt if I'm Utah, I'm not going to trade a player away and then go into a rebuild because to try and find Donovan Mitchell again. Like I have a core piece I can build around. I get the Rudy Gobert thing. Like he's 30 years old. You're paying him all that money. I would much rather build around Donovan Mitchell right now, and you'll build a winner quicker than if you were to trade him and be like, all right, guys, you got these picks.
Right,
like,
right.
It worked for Boston because they got Tatum and Brown. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like with those picks. But go on. I just want to hear your opinion.
Yeah, no, I said the only reason I said even to wait until the deadline was because I was thinking if it doesn't work out, then you have a perfect opportunity because no matter what, he's going to be, a top tier player in the league. So
it's going to have value no matter when you trade for him.
Exactly. Yeah. So I would say run it back. And if things still are falling apart and you're, struggling a little under 500 or even around 500 at the deadline, maybe move it, but
yeah, without a doubt. I think for me, I would still make the argument: go get your farm, go rebuild. Get the soil to lay your foundation, and then watch this thing sprout. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying. But
when you use the analogies, it sounds much better. Right? That in there. Lay the foundation, let it sprout. Now you got me convinced. You know what? Trade his ass. I like what he said. I like what you said.
All I have to do is All I have to do is use farming terminology, and apparently that just wins me every argument now. That's incredible. Oh my gosh! But before we kind of like close out, let's kind of talk a little bit about where we're at with the Kevin Durant holdout and the entire league kind of being. There's kind of mixed reports. Like on one hand, it sounds like Miami reportedly is really interested and getting Kevin Durant, and they're trying to move hell and high water to make that happen. My one question is, who do they have on their roster to make that happen?
Exactly.
Because if the Nets want the best trade package, there's no shot it's coming from Miami. And in addition, with having Ben Simmons on the roster, it complicates so much about the type of trades that you can make because he's on a rookie max extension. When you trade for a rookie max extension, you can only have one contract that you trade for. You can't have two. So with that, gentlemen, I don't know if right now I even feel comfortable enough to say where I think Kevin Durant will go. So that's not what I'm going to ask. But do you think we're watching the league change in front of our eyes? Because to me, this almost feels like the cautionary tale of just trying to team up and build a super team and get a ton of minimum pieces around you. Now, granted, there were a lot of circumstances and things that made this thing fall apart quicker than usual. And, you have the whole Kyrie thing that's weighing on all this too. But to me, like, it just feels like this is just something that even as a fan, as someone that's been following the game, as an analyst, as someone that covers the game, I've never seen this before.
And I think, Sean, a lot of this, trade me now kind of stuff. Of course, we've seen players even in the 90s and whatever doing this, but I would say a big turning point in my eyes was when James Harden wanted out of Houston. And remember, it took so long for them to finally move him to the Nets. For me, I think that's just where the league is at. You have all this talent, and you have a lot of unhappy players in their current situation, if it's with management, if it's with the teammates, if it's with coaching, if it's with whatever. And I feel like we're in a unique spot. And I think, your original question, are we seeing the league change before our eyes? Yes, but I feel like there's been a lot of stuff brewing to get us to this point already.
Yeah. I think the Ben Simmons thing was last year was a huge
big
precursor to this. I mean, even James Harden, it's unprecedented to see stars of this magnitude request out. But guys, Kevin Durant's doing it with 4 years left on his contract.
And I have a question before Jeff goes to you, Sean. And I don't want to cut into your time, Jeff, but Sean, look at how long I brought it up earlier with James Harden. Look how long it took for them to trade him finally from Houston to the Nets, and look how long it took Ben Simmons to go from Philadelphia to Brooklyn.
Yeah,
is there a chance that we see Kevin Durant in a Nets uniform for the first month or so?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I still think there's a chance that Kevin Durant realizes the Nets is his best option. I still think there's a chance that he undoes the trade request and just says, just trade Kyrie, just have me stay. Let's figure this out and reshape this thing. You know what I'm saying? Like there's still a reality where that could happen. The tricky thing with this Kevin Durant situation, and I'll just set this up for Jeff as to kind of segue into his time. The really difficult thing is that all word around Kevin Durant is that he's gone radio silent. He's gone completely dark, and he's not telling anyone anything. And so this feels like Kawhi level of uncertainty right now as far as what's coming out of his camp or what could potentially be happening behind closed doors. Jeff, what are your takeaways? What are your thoughts right now?
And I'll start with this. Obviously, trading Kevin Durant, you're not going to win the trade. I'll just get that out of the way. It's really finding the best offer. And I think if you're the Brooklyn Nets and you're Sean Marks, you have all the power. You have him on a 4-year deal. And to what you asked, Troy, yes, I think there's a real chance. If I'm Sean Marks and I'm getting lowballed from other teams like Miami, you're damn straight I'm keeping him. Because guess what? His value is not going to decrease unless he blows out both knees. He's going to be just fine. It's Kevin frickin' Durant. So I think the ball is in Sean Marks's park. I think he has all the complete control. That's probably why Kevin Durant at this point went radio silent, because it's like, what control do I really have? And you can even go back, and I think the league has been shifting in this direction for a long time. It's a players. Look at Paul George, even dating back to Indiana. They didn't trade him to LA like he wanted to, but still, players have control. And I think this is the time where organizations are now adjusting to it. All right, Kevin wants out, but we're not playing on Kevin Durant's time. You're on a 4-year deal. You signed that contract. So we're going to make you either play, the beginning of the season till we find the best offer. And let me tell you this, when you have teams through the start of the regular season that are struggling, they're going to get desperate. You're going to have a team that thought they were going to be much better than they are. And then they're going to struggle and be like, yeah, we need Kevin Durant. Give up like Sean said, give up the farm system. All right. Give them, lay down the soil, get the crops going. All right, let's do it. So I'm not too worried. I think he'll be traded, but again, it's Kevin Durant. It's just a matter of when. I don't know if it's if, but we'll see.
Yeah. But I think the interesting thing though, and I think why you're seeing so many teams, other teams not jumping on this opportunity as quickly is because what's to say Kevin's not going to do the same thing with us? That's the other thing. We're at a point now, truly, the Nets want an unprecedented asking price. But the question is are they going to be able to get that? I mean, I'm sure there's going to be teams that are going to be willing to give up a good amount to get Kevin Durant, but if I'm a team like Toronto right now, like what incentive do I have to give up Scotty Barnes in a trade when I can just let this thing play out and get even more uncomfortable for you guys? You know what I'm saying? Like they're the other piece for like, even though the Nets have all the leverage, the tricky thing about this though is they kind of don't, because like you have the leverage in the sense that you have the guy that everybody wants, but ultimately Kevin has the leverage of where he can actually go, because it's going to be the matter of if he's actually going to allow them to like if he's actually going to want to play there. Like he could be traded to New Orleans. That's cool. But if Kevin Durant's not going to want to play in New Orleans, he ain't playing in New Orleans.
It's like what the Lakers did with Anthony Davis. Like you knew he was coming to LA. It's just a matter of like, all right, let's get this deal done. What's the best deal for you? So with Kevin, I think the domino, and I'm going to ask you guys this because it's an interesting question. I'm not too worried about the Kyrie thing. I mean, you look at the people that have inquired about him, it's just the Lakers. But if you're the Nets and you get to a point where you're like, you know what, maybe we can make this thing work. Do you even trade Kyrie? Like, do you try to, because if you trade Kyrie and you keep Kevin Durant, like what is a roster with Ben Simmons, Kevin Durant? Now you had TJ Warren. Like, wow. Like what's the plan there if you're Brooklyn?
I think you only do what Kevin wants you to do. Like if you're going to keep him on the roster and if he's going to be there at that point, like, because it's not like the Nets and Kevin have a broken relationship. It's not like KD wronged the Nets franchise. Right. So like ultimately, like, if he was going to stay, they would still want to do right by him. And the tricky thing is, if he wants Kyrie there, even if you by all means want that guy out of the building,
he's
there. So like, you know, to me, like what would make the most sense? It seems like Kevin wants to be done with the Nets and Kyrie. And I think that's why he wants to move on, is because he wants to break up with Kyrie too. So like maybe for him, you know, like that's where like that scenario of like, that would be the only way that Kyrie is moved to me, is if he goes, maybe this is just a fresh situation with Kyrie not here, and maybe we can recruit at some point. But even then, I just, you know, I just think the more likely scenario would be that he'd get traded at that point. So
yeah.
The Toronto thing is intriguing, isn't it, guys? Though, like giving
Toronto.
out your rookie of the year for arguably, you know, one of the best players in this decade. Like,
I don't know if I do it though. Like, because like if I'm the Pistons and we're in that same situation, I don't want to trade Cade for KD. Like even though even though I'm getting like, and as nuts as it sounds, because it's like, well, you're getting Kevin freaking Durant. You're getting Kevin Durant at 34 years old off of an Achilles tear, missing 20 plus games the past couple seasons. Like it just doesn't make sense for certain teams to go add a Kevin Durant.
And I don't think it makes sense for Toronto, but it's at least intriguing that there's even a conversation.
I don't know, Troy, because I made this argument last week too. And Anthony was sitting there in your spot, and I got him to change his mind. So maybe this will change your mind too.
Okay. When
I'm looking at this Toronto roster, I'm looking at it, and there's a lot of veterans and a lot of pieces from their championship run back when they had Kawhi Leonard, right?
Big
time. You're looking at this roster, it's kind of awkward. It's partially young, partially veterans, right?
Yep.
And I would argue that the best way to maximize the future of Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet, or possibly even just Fred VanVleet, is by going and getting a guy like Kevin Durant that better fits your timeline. That would be my only argument. But the flip side is, do you firmly believe enough that with bringing Kevin Durant in that you're going to win a championship? Because if you trade away Scotty Barnes and he becomes the player that we all believe he could be, that is a catastrophic trade.
You probably look like the biggest fool of the decade.
Yeah, it's a huge risk. But like, you know, but again, if they win a championship, then it's a different discussion, right? I mean, that is the epitome of a championship or bust move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
but the bonus though is he has 4 years. Not like Kawhi, where you get the 1 year rental. You get 4 years of Kevin Durant. I get he's 34. But the question that Ujiri would have to ask himself is like, do you think Scotty Barnes can get to the level Kevin Durant is in his career? I think he can, not in terms of, you know, they're different players, but I think Scotty can be impactful enough that we could say, like, this is our franchise player. It's a tough conversation. It really is.
Yeah.
But I probably would say no. But if you're going to tell me, like you just pointed out, Sean, the veterans they have, like if you drop KD on the Raptors, they're contenders. Like the bottom line.
Right,
so
right.
It's a tough one. It really is.
And now it is time for us to go from Mount Rushmore and the show the way that it's meant to be ended. My guy, Troy, what are we talking about today, my man?
I'm going to argue we have one of the most fun and unique Mount Rushmores today. It is inspired by the news of the Los Angeles Lakers yesterday announcing that this upcoming season they're going to have a ceremony at halftime to retire Pau Gasol's jersey. So we are going to do the Mount Rushmore of worst NBA players to have their jersey retired by a team.
Oh my God.
Now we got to remember there's no one on this list that sucks. Everyone on this list is good, maybe. But it's at least noting that some teams kind of rush it. You know, maybe they're a winning team and they have a good, valuable asset and they just feel like they got to retire his jersey. I feel like you guys might need to look this up. We'll give you 30 seconds to do that because there are some names.
No, I'm just looking because I'm curious. I didn't know a lot of these players, honestly.
Yeah, I'm going to start with one that I think we do know. Avery Johnson on the San Antonio Spurs. He was definitely kind of a good role player on a championship team. And that's kind of what I'm getting at here is that sometimes teams just rush good role players on winning teams and just retire their jersey. I mean, Avery Johnson, he kind of flirted with like 10 assists a game one season, but like that's about it. He had guys like David Robinson and Tim Duncan to pass to, so I feel like that may have helped him a little bit. He definitely was a guy who averaged, I think, a little over 13, 14 points a game. So, I mean, he was good, but like, do you really retire his jersey? I don't know, guys. Avery Johnson, he's my number one or my first on my list. So, got any other names, guys?
Can I bring up a name that I didn't even this just occurred to me now looking it up. Junior Bridgman. A man who was in the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar trade to LA. He went to the Bucks. And I see this. He has his jersey retired by the Milwaukee Bucks, but he never led the Bucks in scoring, and he was never an all-star. So to think, though, like people get their jersey retired because of the impact they've had on a franchise or how much they meant to the franchise. But some guys, when you boil it down, like what the hell are we doing, guys? Who is Junior Bridgman? Do you guys know Junior Bridgman off the top of your head?
I really don't.
Shout out to Junior Bridgman. That's a guy I had to point out because I was shocked. I never maybe when you heard the Kareem, when people back then saw the Kareem trade, it was Kareem, and no one saw what the Bucks got in return. So maybe that's why as well.
For me, I'm throwing a name of a guy I like.
Yeah.
But guys, in what world is Zydrunas Ilgauskas the consensus? Come on, brother.
Are you serious, Sean? What the hell, dude?
Yeah.
You know him?
Okay, but no one's going. If someone's going to, if I'm going to Cleveland and they're like, "Hey, welcome to the Cavs. Pick your number," and I go 11, and they're like, "Sorry, that's retired from the great Zydrunas Ilgauskas." I'm gonna say, who? And the thing is that on almost any other franchise, Zydrunas Ilgauskas is not getting his number retired. But because of how hot dog water the Cleveland Cavaliers were in his time that he was a Cavalier, that's why his number was retired.
And still made the finals.
Yeah, with LeBron.
He was a two-time All-Star. Like he was like there were points in his career where he was like a solid big in the mid 2000s. Like, there was a point where he was pretty effective. But like, guys, why is Zydrunas Ilgauskas' number retired? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're right, Sean. You have a great point. And that kind of leads me to my next point. My third guy on my list, also Cleveland Cavalier. Never heard of him till now. Name's Bingo Smith. Now, the reason I'm reading a little bit why Bingo Smith is retired is basically he was the best player on a crappy expansion team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. He was kind of your first good player on that franchise. So if you're a Cavs fan, owner, general manager, whatever, it kind of makes sense to retire your first kind of good player. But like, you guys ever hear of Bingo Smith?
I only know Bingo Smith because he was on my team at one point in 2K, and I remember his name because I was like, "Who the is Bingo Smith?" But
what a name, though. Honestly.
Yeah, I mean the thing. Yeah, I mean to your point, Troy. I mean, like first of all, this guy played in the league pre 3-pointer, but in addition, peaked at 15.9 points per game in his career. That tells you. That tells you the Cleveland Cavaliers history, man. They just they got some real gems in that up in those rafters.
That is it. You know, it's just to go back to Junior Bridgman real quick. Like, it's crazy to think number 1 is retired by the Milwaukee Bucks. Okay, Oscar Robertson, number 1, Hall of Fame point guard. And then number 2 is Junior Bridgman. Like that's the problem I have.
Big time.
I gotta love it, man. And we're just throwing out strays of these guys, but obviously I'll never have my jersey retired. But come on, what are we doing?
Yeah. Do we want to close it with one more? I have a name in mind, but I think it'll be some controversy here because it's from our team.
Go
ahead.
Say
I love him.
Say it.
Vinny Johnson?
Okay, yeah.
The 6th man, he wasn't even a starter. Like he hit that good shot to win us championship, or at least because at Game 4 in the 1990 finals.
I think it's one of those things where that's a guy, and it's the same thing with Ilgauskas. I mean, there's guys that get their numbers retired not because of their play on the court, because of what they meant to the city.
Right.
And I think the microwave was just one of those synonymous parts with the bad boys. He was such a big part of what that was.
Exactly.
I just think, even if his NBA career didn't say, oh, well, but like it's like, well, that's the microwave. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I'm not mad about it whatsoever because I like Vinny Johnson, but it's still a retired jersey that you do have to step back and say, why exactly? But yeah, I'm not going to be arguing to Tom Gores to take it down. That's for sure. So
can I throw out one more?
Yeah, go ahead.
Vlade Divac for the Sacramento Kings.
Are you serious? I didn't even know that.
Yeah, Vlade Divac got number 21 retired.
To think what Vlade Divac means, though, as far as like he's the guy that the Hornets got for Kobe,
Dude, like it's crazy, man. It's crazy looking at Vlade Divac's career, like his 6 years in Sacramento. Like this guy got his number retired, and in 6 seasons, averaged 11 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists. And this guy got his number retired.
Yeah.
Imagine Andre Drummond getting his jersey retired.
Right. That's exactly what that is, though.
Vlade I was just going to bring it up, Sean. 6 seasons. What are we doing, guys? Like, maybe if Kings fans, if you're watching this, please comment. Explain what the hell, as a fan, if you see Vlade Divac and you see his jersey retired, are you like, what the hell?
I mean,
Sean, we got to do one more.
The only possible explanation is that that was the one time they were good. Like he was he was considered to be part, but it's like, man, oh my gosh. And then also what Vlade Divac did as a general manager too. Great front office guy.
Yeah, we got to have Cone explain this last one because it's recent, but this dude averaged 5.9 points a game. Nick
Collinson.
Yeah.
Oh, he was
Mr.
Thunder. He was literally the first player on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then he played like almost his entire career there.
That's it right there.
Yeah, that was just one of those things. He was literally like, they literally call him Mr. Thunder. So like for him, like not because of his play. But that just shows that sometimes, a lot of times these teams, like just because you have your number retired doesn't necessarily mean that your number retired material.
Right. So, and I guess the name of the podcast or the segment was Worst Players, as in basketball performance. So you gotta throw Nick Collins out there.
Yeah, exactly. He could still earn it for other reasons, but sure as hell not for what he did on the court. That's for dear Lord. But guys, real quick, as we do wind down, we got the summer league coming up. With the summer league championship happening at the end of the week. I want to throw out there just for fun. Bold prediction time. Who's winning the NBA Summer League chip?
Thunder.
I was gonna say it's got to be the Thunder. I think they have, especially with Chet and the guys they have. I like the Thunder. I really do. The Pistons are losing. I mean, Jaden Ivey shouldn't play the rest of the summer league, so I don't know. I'm not gonna throw the Pistons in there. They look pretty good, but I think the Thunder got the tools, man. They got the guys.
Yeah. You just took my well. But the other thing though, they did lose their first summer league game in Vegas, so like they might not make it from the standings because the way that you make it is based off the top 2 seeds from the summer league. So there's a whole ton of tiebreakers that go into that. So that loss could have cost them.
Mm-hmm. Pistons are 2-0.
They play tomorrow night against the Pacers. Hey.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Benny Mathurin.
Yep. Benny Math. That'll have already happened by when
it'll be fun.
Out. And there will already have been an awesome stream event that will have happened too. But with that, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. Troy, so good to have you back, my guy. Always, it doesn't feel right to have an episode without you, brother. So good to have you back. Jeff, always a pleasure to see you. And be sure that you're following my guys on Twitter, by the way. Be sure you're following my guy Troy at Troy Sergey 44, my guy Jeff at Jeff IF80, myself at Sean Half Court. But in addition, be sure you're clicking join down below to become a member. Be sure you're subscribing to our Clips channel so you're not missing any content over there. But also, be sure to join the conversation down below because this is From Half Court, where this is all about basketball, baby. We are all about the love of the game, the love of pro hoops, and the love of our teams, man. So if you like that, be sure to like this video, subscribe, and join the movement. But with that, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in, and we will catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure to subscribe.